sick from exposure to high pollution events, and they don't feel well enough to go to work or to school. And it's usually those that already have vulnerabilities such as asthmatics that can be most impacted by that. So why does Tokerai have a problem? We have a high density of wood burners. Wood burners are important to the community, and it's also located well inland where you get cool, calm conditions over winter, and this can lead to inversion layers, which I just wanted to provide you a little update on how these work to contribute to that really concentrated PM10 get over winter. Right here we've got inversion, temperature inversion, where you get cold air trapped under a warmer layer there. This typically happens during the night time. And here we've got a number of houses representing wood burners. I've thrown in a factory there just to show how factory emissions work differently. With a factory you get fan-forced air through those very elevated stacks, and you can get the PM10 has a very much higher velocity, and it's usually punched out high above those inversion layers, and it's usually well dispersed, whereas the PM10 from chimneys, from wood burners, comes out at a much slower rate at a lower elevation. And as the night proceeds, you get the PM10 building up, and it's trapped below this inversion layer. And as the sun comes up, that inversion layer is warmed up, the air starts to mix with the higher up, warmer air, and you get that PM10 mixing and dispersing. And when you get wind speeds picking up during the day, the air pollution becomes its lowest. So about midday, early afternoon, the air quality is at its best. But what is kinleaf's contribution? We often smell sulphides from kinleaf. Sulphides, humans can smell sulphides at very low concentrations, at levels that are very much below human health effect level. All the evidence available indicates that kinleaf contributes only a small amount of PM10 to the wintertime PM10 levels. So if we took away kinleaf, we'd still have those PM10 issues over wintertime. And so we have the National Environmental Standards for Air Quality, which is regulations for managing air quality that were introduced in 2005. Some of the important regulations include a design standard for new wood burners installed in urban areas. It's mainly around the efficiency and emissions that come out of those wood burners. So there's a requirement that they only emit a certain amount of PM10 and that they are efficient so that they put out a reasonable amount of energy for the amount of wood that's burnt. And there is also an air quality standard for PM10, so when councils are monitoring air quality, we need to compare that against the standard, which is no more than 50 micrograms of PM10 per cubic metre of air. You're allowed to exceed that once every 12 months. If you exceed it more than once, then you have a breach within the airshed, and your airshed is then classified as polluted. And it can take at least 5 years to become unclassified as polluted, because you need 5 years where there are no breaches. So very easy to become a polluted airshed, very hard to lose that status. We've had one airshed in our region that's just lost that status in December, and that was T40, where we've had 5 years with no breaches. So I'm just providing here the record of PM10, daily PM10 concentrations for the last 10 years. We've actually monitored back as far as 2001. But you can clearly see here we've got the NES standard at 50, and where the blue lines exceed that, that's where we have an exceedance of the daily standards. In the past we've had at least up to 20 exceedances, 15 to 20 exceedances over a winter period. In more recent years, the level of exceedances have come down, not only just the number of exceedances, but also the magnitude of the exceedance. And in 2006, we had our best year yet. We only had 5 exceedances. But we've got to weigh that up by noting that it was quite a mild winter. But when we do in a statistical analysis of this, we look at the number of exceedances on average over 5 years, and this takes out some of that variability between colder and milder winters. And we can see that, yeah, there is evidence of an improving trend now, which we haven't had a lot of evidence of before, so very good to see. We just have to bear in mind that while most of those improvements are due to reduced emissions from wood burners, that some of that improvement is related to some recent improvements in meteorological conditions over the last few years. So we just have to bear that in mind that if we do get a cold winter, we may get an increase in number of exceedances, but I don't predict that we'll be getting those higher exceedances that we've been seeing 5 years back. So for polluted airsheds, the NES has some interim targets to meet Tokoroa, because Tokoroa has traditionally had more than 10 exceedances. There are 2 targets. The first target is no more than 3 exceedances by September 2016. So we haven't made that target, but the next one is no more than 1 exceedance by September 2020. So that's really the target we're now aiming for. But based on the current rate of improvement, I don't expect that the 2020 target will be met. So we need to still look at emission reductions. So based on the recent improvements in air quality, I felt it was important to revisit. I know Moitu provided and report to you some emission reductions that I calculated back in 2014. Now that we've had some improvements, we've got an improving trend in air quality. We also had an emission inventory undertaken last year where a phone survey looked at how many wood burners we had, non-compliant wood burners, how many people are still operating open fires and multi-fuel burners in the community. And based on this, there is still 492 non-compliant wood burners, 39 open fires and 92 multi-fuel burners remaining. The vast majority of wood burners now, though, are actually compliant wood burners. There's about a total of 2,200 or 2,500 wood burners, so about 20% now are non-compliant. And I've estimated that we need to still remove 108 kilograms of PM10 over winter time to meet the 2020 target of no more than 1 exceedance. If we remove all of these 492 non-compliant wood burners, 39 open fires and 92 multi-fuel burners, then we will have achieved and replaced them with 80% compliant wood burners and 20% heat pumps, and that's based on through the incentives program. Typically about 80% people will choose to replace an old wood burner with a new wood burner. About 20% tend to go for the heat pump. And I predict that we will still only remove about 85 kilograms of PM10 by doing that, which means we'll still have about 27 kilograms of PM10 still to remove. So we have to look at other options for removing that remaining PM10 to meet the 2020 target. So options for reducing PM10. Obviously the first one was replacing your non-compliant wood burner with a compliant wood burner or a pellet burner, including gas heater or heat pump. If you upgrade to an NES approved wood burner, you can get 2 to 3 times less PM10 emissions, as long as you're operating your wood burner properly and burning dry wood. The other important thing obviously is burning only dry wood, and you can halve your PM10 emissions. So you can get a similar level of emission reduction by good wood burner behaviour, storing the wood, seasoning it properly before you burn it, making sure that the logs are of good size, you're not over-craning your wood burner, and also making sure that you use good kindling, get the fire going properly at the beginning, and you should be able to maintain a good fire throughout the evening. If you've got one of the older non-compliant wood burners, this is where we need to talk a bit about behaviour. Obviously, air controls are necessary and fine. You need the air control to get your fire started. You need a bit more airflow. You might want to reduce that as the fire goes on. But if you have an old non-compliant wood burner that has a damper on it, you don't want to be using that, because when you damper down the flue gases and the smoke, you get smouldering and you get very high levels of PM10 emissions over winter, or through the alpine mining. Another thing is ensuring that you have the correct flue height. Environment Canterbury did a survey a few years ago on wood burners that had been recently installed and found that about 50% of them had the flue height incorrectly installed. So the flue height didn't match the type of wood burner and it didn't match the pitch of the roof. So if you have too short a flue, you will have poor dispersion of the PM10 and you'll probably be polluting your neighbours as well. Ensuring that you have regular chimney sweeping. This is actually a chimney sweep from Germany. It's supposed to happen quite recently. There's a chimney sweep guild and they all wear costumes like this. And also don't burn offcuts or treated or painted wood. I came across some of these firelocks outside their house. This wasn't in the Tokoro community, it was somewhere else in our region. I found some bits of Formica bench top, some painted Pinex board which has formaldehyde resins in it, a bit of plastic attached to the hunk of wood up there and paint. So you're going to get some high levels of PM10 but also some quite toxic PM10 produced from this. And also it's not really that appropriate to be burning rubbish and garden waste in an urban area. In a rural setting, well away from built up areas, it's fine, but these types of 44-gallon drums are often referred to as dioxin generators because they not only produce a lot of PM10 but they're just at the right temperature to produce a lot of dioxin. And just to add into the mix, the National Environmental Standards for Air Quality are currently going through a review. The Ministry for the Environment announced that last year and said that they'd have it out for consultation before Christmas, but through the earthquake, I think that's the excuse that's been used anyway, they've delayed the review of the NES, so we're still waiting at tenterhooks to what that might look like. We're expecting that it will come out later this year, hopefully before the middle of the year. It is very likely that the review will include a requirement to meet a PM 2.5 standard as well as a PM 10 standard. This is the way that internationally many countries are going. And we have done some preliminary trial monitoring of PM 2.5 in Tokoro and found that when we compare it with guidelines and standards used overseas, that there would be quite a few exceedances of those. So we don't think that the review will make it any easier to meet targets for the ES, but we don't quite know what the targets will be, so we really have to wait and see what the ES review will look like.
Your worship, could I ask what is the difference between PM10 and PM2.5?
So what's basically, when we're monitoring air quality, we have this filtering device that allows only a certain size particles or smaller to get through. So when we're monitoring PM10, we only let particles that are 10 microns in diameter or smaller through. When we're monitoring PM2.5, we have a different type of filter and it stops any particles that are bigger than 2.5 microns. So we're capturing a smaller range of particles. The particles we're capturing are smaller and they are often more related to combustion processes. You weed out a lot of those ones that come from marine aerosol, sea spray, dust and things like that. They're targeting more combustion related particles, but it's really just a smaller size particle that you're looking at and focusing on.
So is PM2.5 smaller than PM10?
Yes, yeah. And it's the particles that there's more evidence around human health effects because they can get further into the lungs and cause more health effects because they're smaller.
So with the, do you know any of the way that the Ministry for the Environment are going to continue with the way they measure it? I know that we went down and spoke to Peter Blunt, was it? Brunt, and we're looking at annualising rather than individual peaks.
I think there's going to be, I think there will be more of a focus on an annual average rather than focusing too much on daily exceedances because a lot of the health evidence is more related to if you're maintaining a good annual average.
That's right. And that's where our results have come down quite significantly. We're only meeting the peaks or the numbers.
Yes.
So
with PM10, when we look at PM10, yeah, would be meeting the annual
Yes.
average, but for PM2.5,